I think it's 7:30, isn't it? It is. We're a little bit late.
7:31.
Are we on? Thank you. Hello, everyone. This is Monday, June 5th, and it's approximately 7:30, and we are in the municipal building of Hanover. And Peter always said, I can't remember what Peter always, it was, we're going to do good work for the town and have fun, or something like that. First item on the agenda is public comment. It's our practice to provide an opportunity for public comment at the start of each meeting. Comments or questions should be directed to the chair and are limited to 5 minutes so that we can keep the meeting flowing. If your comments on an agenda item, we do ask that you refrain until we pick that up. And responses, if any, will be provided at the discretion of the chair. Is there anyone for public comment? David.
My name is David Vincelette. I live at 93 Lebanon Street in Hanover. I've been there since 1984. I'm trying to understand how things have been done to me and to my family by this board. Now, Athos, you say you're the president of this board. How did you become the president of this board?
David, we are actually, the 6th item on our agenda, we probably should have had it earlier, Alex, it's my fault, was to organize a vote. So we will, I'm the vice chair, and with the lack of a chair, the vice chair is taking over.
Okay, because last meeting you silenced me and told me I couldn't ask questions. So I thought you assumed you would be the president of the board, but I don't think that's actually the way that it works.
We have yet to vote. At the moment, I'm acting as vice chair.
Yes, that's right, but you silenced me when I tried to ask questions, as Peter Christie had done for 6 years. I'm tired of it. I come to this select board for help for 6 years. I came to stop asphalt dumping in town waters for 18 years. This board has silenced me. They came to a decision that my questions would not be answered. But I'm still here, and I'm still asking questions. Who allowed Dartmouth and Hanover to dump poison in my children's water?
You're asking a question, David, obviously.
Very good. You're bright, aren't you?
David, we have talked about that prior.
Yes, I know you've talked about it for years. Now I'd like an answer. Who allowed Dartmouth and Hanover to dump poison in my children's water?
David, I don't think it's time to take that up. No, I don't think it's appropriate.
It's not appropriate now. 18 years after they started dumping poison in my children's water, it's not appropriate to talk about it. You're not even the appropriate authority. You have no authority whatsoever on that, sitting in that chair. You sit under the board, under the logo of a Native American child being abused. That's your motto. And the American flag, which you've abused and poisoned people in violation of their rights. And now you sit there with no authority whatsoever. And you are the one who decides who is allowed to be poisoned and who is allowed to be abused. You take over Peter Christie, who was the president of the water company, who allowed town reservoirs to be polluted. And you have no answers. I'm asking you one more time, please. Who authorized the town and the college to dump poison in my children's water.
David, you have a couple more minutes to talk.
I've got the rest of my life. I'm 67 years old. I just had a birthday. We celebrated by dipping people in the brook. And this year, it's my 40th Dartmouth anniversary. We're baptizing people in the brook. The brook that you, Peter Christie, Joanna Whitcomb, Mr. Garrity, Julia Griffin, all allowed to be poisoned in violation of law. Well, I came here year after year. For 18 years, I've come asking the same questions. Who authorized poison to be put in the mouths of children by Dartmouth College, Philip Hanlon, Peter Christie, Julia Griffin, all acknowledged that Hanover and Dartmouth came to a plan to recycle asphalt waste. They recycled it into our drinking water. And then they started stealing our property. They stole our land, they stole our farm. Not only did they steal our farm, but they bulldozed it. We had 3 years to recoup the land for unpaid taxes. They bulldozed the buildings. Then when you held us captive for 2 years down on our land on Mink Brook at Shantytown, while we were being held in captivity, illegally, in violation of our constitutional rights, they smashed our rental property. Brought down bulldozers, smashed all our rental property, so we have no income. So I come to you again. I'm asking you, please, you have a responsibility. I know you don't have any actual authority whatsoever, but I'm asking you to use your conscientiousness to look into where and when and who allowed poison to be put in my children's drinking water. I've come to you for a year. The new town manager, I've asked him to call me, to talk to me. He's refused. You're a surgeon.
Can you wrap up, please, David?
Yeah, I'll wrap up. You, what, anesthesiologist? You put people to sleep so other people can cut them into pieces. You're not going to cut us into pieces, mother trucker. I don't know how on earth you got this position, sitting beside a criminal and an abuser of people for 6 years under his tutelage. And now you think you can take over and just continue on as it was, but it's not going to continue on as it was. You're going to have to start answering questions. You can't just sit there. The state constitution requires you to be responsive. The town meeting rules require you to be responsive. You're supposed to answer questions.
David, I'm afraid your time is up. Would you be able to stop?
Sure.
Thank you.
Motherfucker. Criminal bastard.
I do have to distribute a demo to you folks that I have. We'll get to that later. Next, any more public comment? Next, we have 4 recommendations to set public hearings. The first one is to recommendation to set a public hearing for Monday, June 26th. I'm just looking at my calendar for that date. To review and consider the proposed rate and fee schedule for fiscal year 2023-2024. This is something we do on at least on a yearly basis, and from time to time in between, depending on changes we need to make. It involves the whole rate and fees for everything for the town, from setting how much we charge for things downstairs to water and sewer and whatnot. Is there a motion in that regard?
I'll move that we set the hearing for June 26th, Monday, for the rate fee schedule.
Second. Thank you. So, any discussion on that? I think we can take a vote. All in favor? Aye. And that passes unanimously. And this is item number 3 is a recommendation to set public hearing on Monday, June 26th, 2023, to accept the Campion Rink drainage easement and to authorize the town manager to execute all necessary documents.
I'll move that we set the hearing for the 26th.
I can
For Campion.
Great. I'll second that. Any discussion?
If you want to say anything, John.
If you'd like me to, otherwise I don't need to.
No, I think really, if you're available on the 26th, that would be wonderful. I think I can call for a vote. All in favor? Aye. Passes unanimously. And item number 4, recommendation to set public hearing. Thank you very much. To set public hearing on Monday, June 26th, 2023, to accept 5 easement deeds for North College Street sidewalk easement, North College Street retaining wall easement, Hanover Inn, Porte, Cochere. I'm not sure where the accent goes on that easement. I think there should be a
On the share, right?
Axel Graf.
yeah, on the E. And shouldn't the O have something?
I don't think so. I don't know.
Let's call home.
You would know.
Old Tuck Drive, I will continue. Old Tuck Drive sidewalk easement, West Wheelock sewer pump station, and to authorize the town manager to execute all necessary documents.
I will so move.
Awesome. Is there a second? I can second that.
It's a little tricky because I have to recuse myself.
Okay. Okay, well, we still have a quorum.
Employee.
We have a quorum.
Okay.
Without you.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay.
So we're setting up. Any discussion on this? Jenny?
I just don't know what they all are.
Yeah, we have, this is something I believe you put it in our packet, right, Alex? I looked at it.
It should be. I think this has been years in the making from what I
This
understand.
has been years in the
Yeah.
making. There's a list
Lots
of all of
little
them.
pieces. I can.
Go ahead, Alex. I was going to explain it. But
No,
you go ahead.
I don't know a whole lot more than other than what is in the packet.
Basically, we've done things mostly with the college. For example, that wonderful sidewalk that was built from the medical school light to.
Park Street.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, the old Blue Trail.
Yes, which was horrible. Prior to. It's really.
You could kill yourself, but it was kind of fun.
Yeah, it was interesting. Parts of that, like several feet of that, they're not. The easement is not correct. So we're trying to. These are things that have accumulated over the last, I think, decade, and we're trying to clean them up.
I think the oldest is from 2010.
Yeah. So, even more than a decade.
Yeah.
So none of them are very substantial in nature. And we'll have more discussion at them on the 26th. And we did get in our packet maps and whatnot, although frankly.
Yeah.
And there's a summary from Rob
Yes.
that just gives a couple sentences on each.
Yeah, I mean, if I understood them correctly, they were all things that were already done.
Yes.
And I think that's why I found them confusing, because usually, I thought the easements usually were obtained prior to the work.
Well, we also used to do easements
That's right.
without the public hearing process. We
Right.
didn't really have the authority. So we are like,
Okay.
it was,
I forgot
there would be a
Okay.
public hearing and we have, Alex, we got some legal advice and the town meeting.
We approved,
We
right?
approved that if you do a public hearing, the planning board and conservation commission approves of the easements. We have a public hearing and then we have the authority, or we can give Alex the authority to sign it. So normally we have just done it in a regular meeting. We learned that we had to get, am I correct? Town
meeting
and then we had
previously.
to statutory.
Right.
These hearings are required in order to see if there's any public comment and then we can sign
So
it.
the conservation committee
And the planning board.
planning board.
I think that's what was in the
It was, I don't know if the same process applies to buying and selling property or conveying or doing easements. I'm not sure, I can ask Rob if what process these 5 went through. But yeah, the practice, in the past, the select board didn't have the authority, the town meeting had to enable the select board to be able to accept easements, basically. So now we are
And
able to
release
do that.
easements, I think.
Right, yeah. So I can double check, I'm not sure the easements,
Require planning board.
require, yeah, but I can double check on those
Yeah,
and
we
I
should,
can ask
just
Rob.
so we don't screw it up.
I don't,
Okay, so, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, I'll call for a vote. All in favor to set the public hearing on the 26th? Aye.
Aye.
Great, and
And I recuse myself.
recuse or abstain, refuse, whatever.
Can
So-
I, Alex, is it okay if I ask Alex a question?
Please.
Can you, as you're verifying kind of whether we need or we don't need Conservation Commission and Planning Board, if the town wants to release an easement, like not accept one, but release one, and I understand there's some Pine Park legal stuff happening, do we have to have a public hearing to do so?
to release an easement?
Yeah.
Okay, I will look into that too.
That'd be great, thank you.
What does that mean to release an easement?
So there's a series of land swaps happening in order to clean up the 100-year-old Pine Park property boundaries. And there's an easement that the town granted over a piece of property that should be in the Pine. My understanding is it should be in the Pine Park Association deeds, it shouldn't be Part N. Half of it's on Dartmouth land, half of it's on the town. The town has an easement, but it should just be in Pine Park. And so I think the town has to release it in order for the Pine Park documents to be cleaned up. And I just didn't know if we're talking to legal about the process, it would be helpful to know if we have the authority to do that, if we have to have a public hearing to do it, if it, and so I'm just, and Rob, I was talking to Rob Houseman about this, and so maybe he knows.
Okay,
I raised it.
I'll talk to him and Laura.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
I think, yes, I mean, there's like a whole bunch of, like if they're gonna work together on the College Park intersection, it seems like whatever order it happens should be the correct order.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk offline if you want at some point, and we can give you the history of like the Porte Cochere. And that was just basically, the town didn't want to build the sidewalk. The traffic analysis said, oh, it'd be good to have the sidewalk. And so the college built it, they've used it, they plow it, we all use it, but it's in the town's right of way. And so technically there should be an easement if we're taking care of it and responsible. We are meaning Dartmouth, I'm wearing my hat. And so that's one of this happens all the time, they're just trying to make sure it's legal and or it's correct.
Great, and we'll move on to item number 5, agenda item number 5, which is another public hearing. Recommendation to set a public hearing on Monday, June 26, 2023, to accept Baum Conservation Area property on behalf of the Hanover Conservation Commission to accept, it's a long sentence, to accept donation from the Baum Foundation in the amount of $50,000 to fund maintenance and upkeep of conservation lands in Hanover, and to authorize the town manager to accept and/or execute all necessary documents. So we kind of talked about this before, and we'll talk about it again on the 26th, but this one, we had discussion, there was Alex, you explained this for us in our packet. Is there a motion to set the public hearing?
Sure, I will move to recommend setting public hearing on Monday, June 26th to accept Baum Conservation Area property and a donation from the Baum Foundation with many thanks on behalf of the community.
Absolutely. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion on this? We're gonna talk about it again in 2 weeks, 3 weeks? Call for a vote, all in favor?
Aye.
And that passes unanimously. Which moves us on to our organizational meeting for the select board. We had a preliminary talk about this. Joanna wasn't here. No, Nancy's not here, but I think over that time frame, we've kind of put things into process. There are two things we need to do. One is to set the officers, which is mandated, and then talk about liaisons. With respect to officers, we need to have our chair, vice chair, and secretary. I would like to move that. I'd like to move that I be chair and Joanna be vice chair. I think we can talk about secretary after that. So I'd like to make that motion. It's always a little bit awkward.
I didn't know you could, yes, but, okay. Do we both do them both? Should we?
Oh, we can do them individually, sure.
Okay.
That's
Well,
probably
we
much
should
better.
probably- Yeah,
Yeah, we should. We should.
unless we want to do a slate, but we don't have anyone to, we haven't talked about secretary either.
You know, we haven't talked about secretary at all.
Maybe we should just talk about it.
Okay, all right, so, secretary,
I can speak to what that
Go
job was.
speak to that. You've been
because
secretary for about a decade.
For 8 years, I've been the secretary because because I was the last one with the board, was left over. And essentially the job is to sign the minutes. And occasionally there's other duties as the official secretary, but there's no minute taking. And that's about it.
that's about it.
Because we have a professional minute taker. Alex puts together the agenda with the chairman or chairperson. And so it's not a huge time commitment. Of all the things that I've done for the board, it's like the best one. That's all you have to do is sign it.
Gotcha.
Any interest, guys?
Flip for it.
You can flip, you can do rocks, paper, scissors.
I'm pretty easy either way. Would you like to be the secretary?
No, you can do that.
Okay. Okay.
All right, so how about if I amend my motion then to include the slate of secretary, Carrie, Joanna as vice chair, and me as chair. Did we want to talk about them separately? I don't care.
I don't care.
We've just traditionally done it as a slate, but
Okay.
we haven't really changed things in a while. So I'm certainly open to do either, because we are changing things.
I think it's cleaner to separate them.
Okay, fine.
Okay,
Then
that's good.
I'll totally withdraw that
Okay.
unseconded motion. And I would like to make a motion to have me be president. Excuse me, that's the correct term that we've used already tonight. Chair of the committee, select board.
Okay, I'll second it and we can talk about it. How's that?
That was painful.
That sounds good.
So I think it would be awesome if you would serve as chair because you've served as vice chair for many years and understand the procedure of doing it. And it would be nice to have the continuity, in my opinion.
I agree.
Any
I
further
was
discussion?
just wondering if you guys discussed this with Nancy. I don't know everybody's
we
like
have,
tenures with everything.
No, Nancy is, I don't want to speak for Nancy, but I have spoken with Nancy. And yes, thank you for bringing that up. That is why we brought it over 2 weeks, so we could get basically, not everyone involved, but Nancy, for private discussion with me is okay with that. Thank you for asking, Jenny, it's a really good question.
I also think it takes a lot of time to be chair, so
Yeah.
I do think that,
Right,
and I know that you work
I do work a lot, but the good news for me is I am planning to cut my time back. I'm slowly trying to put that into effect. So it'll take me a couple of months, but I guess people on TV should probably know this by now, but I'm telling a lot of people. I told everybody at my 40th reunion, just like David at his 40th reunion, which was this weekend.
Congratulations.
It's actually really exciting to come back.
I'm looking forward to that day.
Really exciting. It's like liberating. Sorry, I'm digressing. I
Yeah, no,
apologize.
that's right. My 40th reunion this year too.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, motion on the table, seconded,
I guess we can call for a vote if there's no further discussion.
further discussion.
No, I think like, I would, I mean, can I condition it that we don't use the term selectmen anymore? Or
Oh, I talked about that,
selectmen?
Jenny. We don't.
We don't.
We don't.
We just
I talked about
did.
that last time.
No, we just did though. Like,
When? Who?
we referred to you as the selectman who would be the chair in here. It was, I mean, we have it recorded, so we can go.
We can
Like,
certainly go back.
We can go and see the place.
As I mentioned at last meeting,
Yeah.
we do not refer to ourselves as chairman or vice chairman or selectman. The state, in its infinite wisdom, still does, which is why when we signed on that, like,
Yeah, we can change that though. We have that choice.
not,
Well, we have changed
We
it
have
as a
changed.
policy here, but we didn't change it in our charter. We didn't go through that exercise.
Right. We can change it in our charter, our ordinances, and our website.
So we have
We have.
that in our ordinances.
have you found examples of where we haven't?
It's on the website.
I'm sure there's errors on the website, because some of those descriptions of things are pulled from state, but if you find things like that, just send them to me and I'll send them to IT and we'll change them. Because I mean, we all are under the impression that it's select board, but every once in a while I get a memo and I see selectmen, and I'm like changing it and reminding people.
Yep.
But it's pretty rare, but I'm sure there's some outdated stuff on the website. But yeah, if you see that stuff, just send it to me and we'll change it.
Okay.
That's at least,
that was
that's at
something
least
that
easy
we
to
did.
do on my
I did
end.
a long time ago.
It was like the first thing that I raised.
Yeah.
When I,
Yeah.
when I first got on the board, was to change it to select.
No, we're very sensitive to that issue, and if it does creep through, remind us, but
Yep.
we're not doing it actively. Okay, let's call for a vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
That passes unanimously. I'd like to make a motion to, for Joanna to be vice chair of the select board.
Second.
Any discussion? I think Joanna, having worked with you for a long time now, 8 years, it's been wonderful working with you, and I think it'd be a perfect role in that. Is it meeting with your time obligations okay?
Yeah, I mean, I think the bulk of the work is you, and I'm here to support you, but I think we're all here to work together,
Yeah.
so
We do work together.
I would be happy to serve if you want me to.
Any discussion? Call for a vote, all in favor? Aye. And it was Carrie, right? You won the coin toss, right? Won.
Yeah, Carrie won.
Carrie won the coin
Yes,
toss.
one.
Yeah.
Votes, Carrie votes. Yes.
Well, I'd like to move that we have Carrie
Carrie won.
act as secretary, which is really a great job. Period, end of motion. Is there a
I
second?
will second that.
Okay.
Any further discussion? You can't back out now.
Well, you can if you want
No,
to.
I'm good. Okay.
I'll call for a vote, all in favor?
Aye.
And that passes unanimously. So now we have a little bit of work to do. Let me call up with regard to the liaisons.
And I apologize for not being here on the last meeting,
Well, you shouldn't apologize, people have lives.
yeah, I was.
Everybody has
You
a
had vacation.
I had
That you
vacation.
had to move because of town meeting.
Well, that was some kind of slip too.
Excuse me 1 second, I'm just calling up my list. Should have had it ready to go. I think we all have a list in our packet too, don't we?
Yep.
Let me just call mine up.
My packet is being.
Give me 1
Your
second.
packet didn't have it in it?
No, it's just like not coming up right now because my Outlook's being bad.
Outlook's been
It
bad all
it like
day.
it started revolting this last like.
Great.
But there's like issues at Microsoft.
Yeah, and I can't get onto like
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah. I don't know what's
Dartmouth at all. Like so, all those students are like.
All right, so I'm just going down alphabetically.
So it's just
There's the advisory board of assessors, Joanna has been on, and I understand Joanna, we don't have to vote on these, by the way. These are just appointments. There is one we have to vote on.
I'm happy to continue
Yeah,
to
that's
serve
what I was
unless someone is very eager to be on this advisory committee, but I'm happy to continue, provide the continuity. I endured the reappraisal
Great.
and happy to do that.
All right, so let's stick with that.
Anyone interested in being an alternate?
Are we doing alternates or we're not?
We can do alternates, yes. This one, an alternate would be helpful for this one.
Yeah, because once in a while,
Yeah.
very, very rarely.
How often do you meet?
alternate.
Like 4 times a year?
Yeah, I don't imagine, I mean, this year maybe 2 or 3 more times.
Right. Yeah, it was busy. Or was it last year? Anyway, Carrie, did you express interest in being an alternate for this? I can't remember.
I didn't. We kind of have a long list, so
We do.
I'm
Let's
envisioning
get-
this process as a little bit horse trading at the end if
Yes.
it's
Okay.
imbalanced.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay, that's a good
one
idea.
that we have not talked about in depth is the Conservation Commission. That is an important committee. They meet, how frequently?
Once a month.
Once a month, thank you.
By statute, they're required to, but it's my understanding.
I'm not sure if that's,
If you don't think it's true.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, that one's statutory. I don't know how frequently they have to meet though.
Yes, exactly. It's a great committee. I was on it for a while and really liked it. This is one we
I can't
haven't.
really be on that.
Good point. Well, let's do a couple of things. I know what Nancy wants to do. And she wants to continue on planning board, and she wants to continue on the Howell Library Board of Trustees. She's very happy with her assignments, and God bless her, she's on the planning board, so she deserves everything. Because that is a lot of work, and she does a great job on it. So,
And we should, I know we had a question asked us when we talked about this, there
Yep.
should be an alternate for planning board also.
yes, we have to come up with
Yeah.
an alternate. Did you figure that out?
Yep, yeah, there should be, there was one, I don't know why it wasn't on the list.
Okay.
Peter.
Peter's
I'll be the
Right,
alternate.
he's on that,
if
okay.
People don't want to be
Okay.
the alternate. Or I'll be the alternate for the planning board.
Awesome.
Great.
Okay.
So that takes care of Nancy, and that takes care of the Howell Library and the planning board. The Howell Library doesn't really
No.
need an alternate. Although they're a fun committee too. I was on that one for a while. So getting back to the conservation,
Well, if we go down the list.
yeah, okay,
so
wait,
if
the
I-
ones that are, okay, the other, let's leave that one out there for the moment. Because I'm not sure how many I'm gonna be doing, and I could, right, and I could probably fill in there, if I need to. The bike walk committee,
Looks like both are jams.
So I'm wondering, I mean, Jenny's really
Please.
passionate
Yeah.
about bike walk and she's done
Uh-huh.
amazing amounts of work. So Jenny, if you want to be the lead and I'll be the alternate, does that,
I think that makes a lot of sense.
okay.
great,
Because
thank you
then
for,
hopefully we'll both get there.
thank you for working that out. Another one that is a big time sink and, is the finance committee, and I don't say that in a negative way, please, don't anybody
Well, I've
think I meant
served
that.
on it for many years.
Yes,
You went, wasn't that your first committee?
I think Howell Library was.
Oh, okay.
Howell Library is fun, they usually.
Yeah, I know. They usually
They have food.
Finance
Everybody-
doesn't usually give food.
We have candy.
That's true. And today we had a very special Oreo cookie,
Yeah.
chocolate caramel. No, what was it?
Who
I
made
think
it?
it was.
Coconut caramel. No,
yeah,
no, it's an
something
Oreo.
I could do.
It was a weird.
Yeah.
Carrie, do you have
Yes.
thoughts on that?
I would be happy to continue there for another year. I feel
Okay, you want a term limit?
I feel like
I think, yeah,
continuity is
I
good, but yes, at some point in the future, maybe
Yes.
something different, but
yeah, you need something different, but the rest of us would greatly appreciate you on that, believe me.
okay.
But I understand
Does
where
that
you're,
mostly meet like before the town meeting? Or does it
no,
meet
it's very
throughout?
intensive.
It meets once a week.
Yeah.
That's right,
Once a month.
yeah, once a month, and it's typically on Mondays prior to this meeting.
And then there's, you have some ad hoc meetings too, as I recall, don't you?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
As the budget comes together, Jenny,
Yeah, that's when they were meeting
And
that,
they attend our
they do
meetings too.
school board as well,
yeah.
so it's a pretty intense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
No, that's a lot of work, and believe me, Carrie, we appreciate you.
So
Do we need an
Alex,
alternate?
do we need an alternate for that, or what do you think, Carrie?
Has there been one?
There has,
Yeah,
Peter was the
Peter was
alternate
the
alternate.
before, so
If you need one for paper, I can do it.
you want to, okay,
Sure.
will be the, okay, Athos will be alternate, okay.
Hanover Improvement Society, Joanna, you know about that one more than I do.
Yeah,
Can you describe that one?
that's a minimal service. I mean, basically, there's a membership meeting there's a meeting once a year, it usually happens in June. And you will, receive, there's a board, an executive board, and that meets monthly. They manage the, Stores Pond Recreation Area. They manage the Campion Rink, and they manage the Nugget. So there's a board that's elected through the membership. There's a couple dozen members, and the ex officio, the select board representative, serves on the membership. And so you'll get, being on that board, being ex officio, you'll get the minutes so you know what's going on, and you're invited to the annual meeting. And actually, there's good food there.
Oh, there you go. Hearing that, Jenny, is it something you had interest in?
yeah, I was
Great.
interested in that.
That would be awesome.
Is it, so do they meet, would I be expected to go to the monthly meetings as well?
No,
Just-
because, so the
just
executive
the
committee is
liaison.
like 6 people, and
Yeah.
that's from the regular membership. I mean, like
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
slate,
But the annual meeting, I think, is June 13th.
yeah,
Put on your calendar.
This is for Hanover Improvement?
yeah.
Okay. Keep score here.
And so the meeting is at 3 p.m., I think, at Howe Library, the meeting, and then there's the picnic that happens at Stores Pond at like 6 o'clock on the 13th.
Okay, we're doing well. We talked about Howe Library, that's Nancy. We talked, and Parks and Rec, we're not gonna appoint someone because there is no committee at the moment. We talked about the planning board, which brings us to Trescott Company. So the Trescott Company board, I've been on for a long time, and I'm happy to continue in that regard. Just for those who aren't as aware as others, the Trescott, what's the official name? Trescott Company Board. The Trescott Company is the holding company for the, I believe, 1,200 acres that is now owned half by Dartmouth, half by the town of Hanover, surrounding, but not including the 3 reservoirs. Well, actually, the 2 reservoirs, the 2 that are on the left side. It is not a huge time commitment. We have a couple of,
Is it quarterly?
I'm trying to remember. I can't remember if it's quarterly or twice a year. There are a couple of bylaw stated or regulated or mandated meetings. And we have 3 people, we have 3 members on that committee. Alex is is on the company board. I have been, and Peter was on that board as well. It's not a huge time commitment, although it is meeting tomorrow, and we're gonna have to scramble for that one.
And the job is really to manage the lands.
Yeah, the job is to manage the lands. Basically,
Right.
we have a very small budget, and we kind of just,
Decide
Yeah.
how
yeah.
to implement the management plan
Right.
for the 1,200
Yeah.
acres.
Carrie, is that something?
I was
Yeah.
interested in.
Yes, I think that'd be great. So we have to figure this out, Alex, with the college tomorrow. Reorganize. We have an agenda, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, and reorganizing, I think, is the first or second item.
Yeah.
So does
Okay.
Peter actually have to submit a letter of resignation? Is that how that works for that? And then,
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's
And
I would
then
expect it's probably appointed by the select board, so
It
probably,
is appointed by the
probably
select
not.
board. I remember that in the bylaws.
Yeah,
Okay, so if we appoint Carrie.
then I think that does it.
Okay,
And is the order of the officers set, so previously it had been
No.
Peter as chair.
No, we need to, thank you for, I'm just jumping to the answer. No, it is not set. That's why we need to organize. We vote, just like we voted today, we will have an organizational meeting tomorrow, which I hope I can make.
Tomorrow.
Well, if not, we'll just give you all
Yeah.
the stuff to do.
Okay.
well, and hasn't Carrie helped in like?
Carrie Osgood?
Carrie Osgood in terms of.
Yeah,
setting-
Peter has.
She's helped a little logistic wise,
Like to
but
set up the meeting.
the hope was that the Truscott Corporation will do more of that. She did a bit of a catch up because some things had fallen off for a little while. But I think there's minutes, there's a couple things. That we will figure out tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll figure it out tomorrow.
Sure.
We'll wing it, but in good faith with the college. I'm gonna skip the Upper Valley Lake Sunapee Regional Planning Commission. We do have 2 residents who attended. Those residents that are
Jenny is on it.
oh, Jenny's on it, thank you.
And Chris Kennedy.
Yeah,
And I
right.
actually, Dave Anderson, who
Is he-
lives in town, has expressed interest.
Hmm.
So if you,
We
Okay.
should appoint him. We
Yeah.
have another spot.
yeah,
Oh,
because Hanover
there's
has
3
3
spots?
spots.
Yeah, we don't use them all,
Oh.
So
so
it'd
it'd be
be
nice
great
to
if-
use them.
But, you know,
Yeah.
in full disclosure, he works in the Dartmouth planning office, but he lives here in town and he's really interested, so.
I mean, I've worked with Dave. I would be comfortable. I don't know if other folks know him.
Have you met with Dave? You did.
Have you, Jenny?
He's on.
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah, I think
he's
he's,
very knowledgeable.
yeah. I mean, if that's something that we want to do tonight,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would think
I
that
mean,
would be
we should
great.
definitely fill all those seats, I would think, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
Will you continue to serve?
yeah,
Would you?
well, yeah, Alex thought it was a good idea. to
Oh, I
have
think it's a
somebody on the
great idea.
board.
No, no.
Yeah.
It's a little hard, but it's okay.
How
It
often-
depends where the meetings are,
Yeah,
honestly,
where in
but they,
When and how often? No.
well, you can like zoom in, if there's a
Oh.
quorum, then I can zoom in. And they also like are, it's usually in Lebanon, so it's not that bad. It was really just a matter
Okay.
Question, before we appoint Dave, do we know he's interested?
of, yeah, he submitted a letter, but we don't have the letter, but
Oh,
I trust that, that's what Joanna said.
Yeah, he's interested.
okay.
He,
Not that I don't mind appointing people who haven't volunteered to things,
no,
but.
he said he would be, and I think he.
Knock on the door.
Yeah, you've been
We're
drafted.
I think
Oh,
he.
maybe we talked about it a while ago, yeah,
And
that's
he-
possible.
And he
Um.
closed on, you know, they just bought a house in town and
Oh,
they're
good.
living in town, but they were able to.
Oh, I didn't realize they just bought a place too now, it's great.
All right, we are moving along nicely. Although we didn't do the Conservation Commission, correct?
We also have the capital improvement.
Oh, thank you.
And, yeah, and there's 2 more there.
Yeah, all right, let's do the capital improvement. Alex, can you tell me what we've come up with for structure of that committee?
Yeah, so I think it's still a little bit TBD, but basically the idea is there's gonna be a handful of staff. So myself, Ellen, our finance director, would make sense. Pete, public works director, probably police chief and fire chief as well. Those are the departments with the biggest capital items typically. And we may want to consider adding Parks and Rec in there. But so those would be the staff that I would recommend participate. And then if we want, we have to have 1 member from the planning board. And now I'm forgetting, but Nancy sent me 2 names of planning board members who were interested.
Okay.
And then 1 or 2 select board members.
So, I mean, this is a new committee and it's mandated and the.
No, let's be clear. It's an idea that you have, Alex, right? That would make sense because the planning board doesn't have the capacity to do it. And by
Either the planning board
statute-
has to do it or a committee has to do it.
Yeah.
And that
Okay.
committee has to have a planning board rep.
Okay,
But beyond that, the membership is up to us.
okay.
That is a very large committee in terms of staff. It's basically all of your direct reports, right, except HR and planning and,
It's probably a third or a half of them,
oh, okay.
yeah. But it's the big capital, yeah, we have about 12 altogether, which is, that's another. But, yeah, those are the, I mean, but I would want each of them to be able, each of the large capital purchasing departments to be able to participate. And, you know, and I think, I mean, we haven't really thought through the process yet, but I would imagine there'd be, you know, on an annual basis, there would be, you know, a request for submissions that would probably come into me and Ellen first, you know, from each of the different, you know, that goes out to all departments, et cetera, that all comes in. We would take a look at those, maybe, you know, put it all together, write up a set of recommendations, maybe send it out to the committee, maybe have a committee meeting, run through all the items, you know, reprioritize things if we, you know, something along those lines. You know, so we'd have, you know, 7 or 9 people. So yeah, it's a bit of a larger group. But if we removed staff from it, I mean, we could certainly, I don't think we have to decide the full membership tonight. I guess if it's going to be a larger size, it might be appropriate to have 2 select board representatives. And if it's a smaller size, then maybe 1 select board representative. If that
So
makes
I
sense.
guess I would like your proposal in
Okay.
writing, and I kind of feel like, I think the CIP is a very public process. So it'd be nice to, I mean, in terms of being fully transparent with our community, because these are the big ticket items, right? We want our professionals to make recommendations, but we also want people to know what's coming down the pike.
Though I would not expect the CIP committee meetings to be public meetings.
Okay.
So those would be like staff meetings, and then they would produce, so right now, the point at which the select board and the public begin to see the proposed capital projects, I think that would be the same point. It's just that right now there's only 1 staff person doing it beforehand, whereas what we're proposing is that there'd be a committee of staff that would be working together on it. So that the impetus before you get the stuff here in the budget workshops and in the public hearings, there would just be more coordination among the staff, which there really isn't right now.
So why would it be a committee then? I mean, it sounds like it's staff work.
Just because the state requires it.
And so in other towns, this is how they set it up, where they had the majority of their staff getting together and saying this is what we need, and then you had a select board and a planning board member on it. Is that
I've seen that, and I've seen other towns where the planning board does it. And they assign out to a subcommittee, and then that comes back to the planning board, you know, with sets of recommendations. But those are in communities where the planning board is really driving those things, which we're not really. So I would say the planning board in that setup is the select board in what we're describing, so that there's work being done on a subcommittee basically of the select board, and the select board takes those recommendations and discusses them and provides, you know, public input and through the budgeting process. But right now it's basically 1 staff person who's basically, so, you know, a department would request an item, but it's not really, there's no vetting, there's no evaluation, there's not really going back and forth.
And there's no comparative analysis in terms of the town's master plan, which is really should be what's driving what the CIP is.
There's a few dots not being connected there, right?
And so for me, you know, we have a 20-year-old master plan that doesn't really talk about the infrastructure and the capital that we need. And now we're in the process of, you know, doing that with a sustainable master plan. And so it's pretty, in my mind, that plan should be driving, you know, some of the big purchases and some of the infrastructure improvements that we identified that inform the CIP.
And I'm happy to bring a proposal back. I might have a few questions about guidance, you know, about what things you all want to see before going back and doing that, but I'm happy to do that too. This will be new for me also.
Okay, why don't we do that? That's a really good idea. So let's hold off on
And I think there was
I'd be willing to serve on this committee if we decided to select board presence.
regardless of what I put in the proposal.
He's like,
Well, so I mean, it strikes me that it fits within the the master plan, it also, there's also financial capacity and also, looking at what the school is doing because they've got plans. And so from a taxing authority perspective, it's, the school district is twice as much as the town. So it would be good to like interlace those things. So to me, that makes some sense, but.
That does make sense. I agree with Joanna, Alex. It would be, if we could spend, I mean, this is not an emergency thing, to spend some time.
Yeah, and I'll work with
about
department
it.
heads, we'll talk about it a little more, and,
And see
And
what
what the committee is.
Yeah, to know the committees, yeah.
Yeah, I'll come back with a little more for,
Yeah.
I could probably do that for the 26th.
I don't think there's any huge rush. Appreciate the offer, Carrie. And I think it's a great idea to do it, obviously.
Yeah.
I'm also super interested in that, as I expressed to you.
Okay,
Okay,
great.
cool.
Thank you,
I
Jim.
think it's really interesting, and I'm really curious about how you write it up. And I'm also curious, how you structure something to include, elements that maybe aren't being included now. That maybe will come from our master plans, whether it's public art or public seating, or there's a lot of stuff that would traditionally sort of just be put into a capital improvement plan if it weren't being seen as just large trucks or whatever else. There's other things that capital can invest in. So.
It's very vehicle and equipment driven right now, that is
Yeah.
definitely true.
Well, and water and sewer.
Yeah,
Water
right,
sewer.
Water
right.
and sewer
Those
and,
things are
and
expensive. And
But
they're-
recreation facilities are not in there, and that came
Well-
up when we met with our Parks and Rec department in our staffing meetings, is when we talked about long-term planning, there is nothing in our
Right.
CIP
And there's
about that.
nothing for our town facilities in terms of deferred maintenance.
Right, well, we have, yeah, right, we
Started
have,
to do that,
right.
But,
Right,
but
this
Parks
is-
and Rec, because that was, there's nothing in there because they don't have an existing facilities and plan that
Right.
they've been asked for 8 years.
Yeah, I think there is a lot of interest in
I'm just
building
saying what we
out.
have and then
Yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of then saying, okay, this is what we need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have old open space plans, and we've got some cool plans. And we'll see
Let's,
how it all holds
I
in.
think we can move on. We've got a good plan here. Thank you, Alex.
Yeah, and I'll come back with some more.
All right, so.
And if anybody has any thoughts, obviously, between now and then, you just shoot them over.
All right, what we have not done are the Conservation Commission, and I think we need, you had suggested, Alex,
Mhm.
Sustainable
more.
Hanover and Trustees.
And Trustees of the Trust Fund.
Right, Sustainable Hanover meets how often?
Once a month.
And.
And those are, I believe those are available by Zoom as well.
But they're
They're in the middle of the
10 a.m. or
day,
something,
yeah.
Yeah, they're at 8 or 8:30.
Gosh.
Yeah, once a month.
I mean, I'll take trustee for trust funds if
Okay,
no one else is interested, and I say that only because I have gone to the past few with Peter and kind of understand what they do, so.
I think that'll be a valuable,
How often do they meet?
quarterly?
quarterly.
Quarterly.
And that is a true liaison, not a voting member.
Right. both of these.
Yep.
Right.
But if, I know that you actually do that for a living, so if you manage trust funds, right? I mean, you're in the financial world, so if you have an
We're
interest.
kind of weighing them down with financial.
I know, kind of the boring stuff, so
Yeah.
I'm happy to do this.
Or
Also-
the exciting stuff you
I'm
get
happy
to
to do
You have to do
it,
that.
but if you
Okay.
are interested, I don't want to, or Jenny or, okay.
If I had a choice between that and the CIP, I think I would prefer the CIP.
Yeah, yeah.
That's good, I got it.
Yeah, he wants to do new things.
And is it possible, I could be wrong about this, does Nancy Sustainable Hanover? I know
I
she's
don't
not.
believe so.
Okay.
But that might not be,
That
if
might
no one
not be a
else
bad-
wants it.
Yeah.
I really don't mean to
I
suggest that,
don't
'cause she's not.
remember there being,
No, this is a
This is a
new,
new,
this is.
these are two
we just think-
suggesting we might wanna,
oh, gotcha.
We think it might be good to have
Oh.
representation.
Yeah, why don't we table
We
that one and
thought
ask?
all
okay,
And
I mean, I
ask.
talk to Yolanda pretty frequently, but I can't make that meeting.
Yeah.
I just can't do it.
That's a
It's
good
not-
suggestion, Alex.
It's not
Let's,
possible.
let's table that and ask Nancy if she wants to do it. If she can't do it, we'll figure something out.
But there are maybe other people who maybe want to report back from that meeting, and like, Catherine's going now, and I don't know, there's lots of people on that committee.
Well, Nancy might be able to do it because she
Yeah.
has capacity in the daytime, unlike the
Yeah.
rest of us.
That could be cool.
All right,
So we
so,
can do.
They do really good stuff. I
Yes,
have
they
made
do.
it to
They-
some of their
okay.
meetings.
so what we're gonna do next is talk about the Conservation Commission, which I think is the last one, correct? Yes. They meet once a month. I believe they meet at 4:30, correct? You don't know?
I think, no, they
I
meet
think it's
at
later. I
They
think
meet at, I think they meet on Wednesdays, and I think they meet
They
at like
changed it.
I think it's like
7.
6 or 7. Yeah.
They meet in the evenings,
Oh, once a month?
I'm pretty sure.
Oh, well, I might be able to do that then. If anyone else, does anyone have a burning interest to do this one? It's a
It's a really good.
really important committee.
There's a lot, they do a lot with trails,
They
because
do.
that's trail and biodiversity.
And they manage a lot of
invasive
different lands. I can take that one. So which means I'm doing what? I'm doing.
Trescott and conservation.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Can I read out what I've got here?
And
Sure.
you're like
And-
alt on the finance.
I'm sorry, what'd you say,
And you're
Jen?
alternate.
You suggested that you're
Yeah,
alternate
yeah.
on the finance.
I'm counting on Carrie never being sick though.
Or
It's a lot of pressure.
Yes, I'll work on that.
All right, so let me run through what I've got here and just stop me if I'm saying something. No. All right, Advisory Board of Assessors, Joanna, primary, Carrie is alternate. Conservation Commission, Athos. Hanover Bike Walk, Jenny is primary, Joanna is alternate. Hanover Finance, Carrie as primary, Athos is alternate. Hanover Improvement, Jenny. Howe, Nancy. Planning Board, Nancy. Jenny is alternate. Trescott Company, Athos and Carrie. Upper Valley Lake Sunapee, also appointing another resident, Dave Anderson, to join Jenny and Chris. We're gonna come back to capital improvement on the 26th. Sustainable Hanover, we're gonna come back to on the 26th. And trustee of the trust fund, Joanna.
Yeah.
Sound right?
Great.
I don't know what we do in the past. We might wanna move, just memorialize the,
I don't
Assignments.
think we
have we done that?
need to.
I don't know.
It's
I'll move it so we have it officially in the minutes that we have a slate that we all agree to. How's that?
Sure, I'll second that.
Kind of.
So we have a motion and a seconded. Any further, we've discussed it. Any further discussion? Hearing nothing, let's take a vote. All in favor? Aye.
Um,
So it's unanimous, okay.
Do we have to, so that included the David Anderson thing, we don't have to do that separately?
I think we're okay. I mean,
Well, I think we may have to send a note to Upper Valley Lake Sunapee.
Right.
Who's been appointed.
Yeah,
yeah. Jenny, would you mind check, like, what's the, I don't know,
Yeah,
the bylaws or
would-
something?
when I did it, I had to be sworn in by,
Someone downstairs?
Yeah.
Or- yeah, okay.
Okay,
Here, it wasn't Upper Valley Lake Sunapee,
here in,
in town hall.
and then I think a letter, I don't know if a letter was sent, I think a letter might have been sent.
all right,
So-
I'll
Yeah, I mean,
look
that's
into
what we
that.
usually
So I can ask them.
Alex? Oh, and then we have to have somebody notify the chairs of all of these boards.
Yeah,
Carrie, I was gonna do that, or?
yeah, we'll send out that, we'll send out to each of the different things, we'll send a note out.
Yeah.
Advisory
Although, hold
board,
off, of course, on the ones we haven't done.
If you want.
Right,
Okay,
Okay,
that,
just touring the ropes a little bit.
If you want to come and meet people, it's on the 15th at 1 p.m.
Got it.
okay. You guys good?
Good.
All right, moving on. Oh boy, the building code. Review and approval of the building code advisory committee's new building code adopting ordinance. What?
It's actually pretty, it's basically.
No, I read the whole thing, but
I know.
I'm having trouble with this sentence. New building code adopting ordinance. Anyway, I read every word, every cross through. I understood none of it. And then I was wondering why I'm approving building codes. Does anybody have, I move we accept the building code advisory's new building code ordinance. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? I mean, as I just said, I read everything as much as I could. It seemed appropriate. I do not consider myself an expert on building codes, but I'm glad that other people are. And I don't have anything to say. And you'll notice, Jenny, there's a lot of the word selectmen crossed out all over the place.
Although as I'm looking on the website about, I mean, I'm seeing it.
I'll send you a list,
Yeah.
I started it, but I thought I'd finish before I sent it. And
Okay.
then I'll just make a Google Doc and share it with everyone, so if anyone has
You don't
more,
have
they can just add it.
Don't share it with everyone. Just
Well,
send
you
it.
don't.
You can share it with me, certainly.
Yeah,
you know.
we'll put it on OneDrive, right?
Yeah.
But I'm not sure how to get on OneDrive, or maybe it's just Microsoft being cranky.
Today, it's definitely a problem.
Like I thought I knew how, and then today I was like,
No,
maybe I
it hasn't
don't
been
know.
working all day.
Okay, that's really good to hear, because I really thought it was.
And if any of you run into those sort of issues with any of your Hanover stuff, you can always call here and get to IT, and they can help too.
Alex, can we just have a word on like where this came from and why we're approving it?
There was a state update, and then this is the local adoption of the state updates.
Yep.
We went back and forth a lot because it was a little confusing process standpoint because it looked like this was another thing the town meeting had to approve, but we found an authorization from long ago that allowed the select board to do it.
Okay.
So that was, we were a little worried we might have missed the boat there.
And this has been reviewed by our advisory board.
Yep.
And they're all in favor of it. And they've
And our building inspector, and
Yep.
Ryan has a note in here
Okay.
summarizing a few of those things.
I think we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
No,
I'm going to call for a vote. All in favor? Aye. And next one's a little bit easier. Review and approval of fire apparatus contract and to authorize the town manager to execute all necessary documents. And this is with regard to what we discussed at town meeting, correct? To basically, I mean, the bottom line is we're saving a lot of money by pushing up our contract or pushing up our purchase agreement or something equivalent to that. Is there a motion in this regard?
Yes.
Great.
Move to approve.
And I can second that, thank you. I have really nothing to add. Is there any discussion?
Couple of questions.
Please.
The warrant article called for as much as 1.4 million. That's not
The
good.
prices dropped.
Yeah, right, so that's, it's coming in at
A little less, yeah.
340,000, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Um,
I think we were originally at 1.2, then 1.4, and then now it's, yeah. So
That's
this is
1.06.
106.
106,
That's,
It's a lot less.
Yeah.
and so I say sign quickly.
Yeah, right.
Yes,
Run with that number.
1,080 days, so 3 years to deliver, but I
Mhm.
guess we knew we were in for a wait, so.
Right, and that's the right timeline from the fire department standpoint.
Yeah, importantly. Great. Any further discussion? We have a motion and a second, I believe. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So that brings us down to appointment to Sustainable Hanover, which is, somebody please help me, I'm getting stuck in my paperwork.
It was,
Lynn Sheldon.
Lynn
Sheldon,
Sheldon wants,
yeah.
and she not only wants to join Sustainable Hanover, but she's willing to chair the recycling committee. Again, sign up quickly.
Right.
Oh, yes, here it is.
Quickly, yes.
Absolutely. I move that we appoint Lynn Sheldon with thanks to the Sustainable Hanover Committee.
And to Lynn, for agreeing to serve.
That's what I
I'll
said.
second that.
That's what I said.
You did think, yeah. We're all thanking her.
Yes. Any further discussion? Call for a vote. All in favor? Aye. All right, we are just burning through this now.
So
Wait, where are we? We're on
we're
the
in donations.
donations to Etna Library, which my packet's a little out of order.
I'll move that we accept with gratitude an anonymous donation in the amount of $300 for the Etna Library.
Second.
Okay, since it's anonymous, we can't thank anyone. Well, we can. Thank you very much. All in favor? Aye. And this brings us to employee recognition for Captain Josh Merriam, Hanover Fire Department, as well as Norm Bernaiche from the Assessing Department. And these are just wonderful. Alex, how should we read this into the minutes? We are appreciating the work of two of our outstanding employees, and we have a lot of information that we've been given.
I can say one or two things about each of them if that helps.
That would certainly help.
Sure. So this is a 2-year program that Josh just completed. He's a captain at our fire department, and he was actually our first Hanover Happenings interviewee. So if you go scroll all the way back to the beginning, really terrible audio, and we really should redo it. I was still sort of figuring some things out then, but we talk a little bit about that. And so this is done through the National Fire Academy, and it is a 2-year program that basically is about community risk reduction. And one of the things that that Josh has been involved in, and will be more involved in once the rental housing inspection program begins, is trying to figure out ways to help reduce risk associated with fires. So this is sort of the preventative, proactive aspect of things. So he's been engaged in some of the conversations that we have had about the rental housing inspection ordinance, getting it together, and I think there's going to be some interesting ways that planning and fire are going to work together, especially on campus at Dartmouth, to try and make sure, to not do, I mean, we were just talking about this the other day, is, sometimes those sort of programs, I mean, really for anybody, but especially sometimes on a college campus or in a high school or something, you come in and you do a lecture about fire safety, like that's not what most college students are most excited to listen to. Are there ways that we can create those programs that are more interesting, accessible, that get people really kind of tuned into what the consequences are of things not working well, how they can take steps to reduce that risk? And so leading and implementing programs like that is part of what this was about. And so that is something that Captain Merriam just finished. And if you want to learn a little bit about him, it's a shorter conversation back when I was trying to keep to my time limits too in the interviews, which have now just gotten totally out of hand. But there is that on there, and
Oh, sorry.
That's it's 1.5. That's still not fast enough. And
it makes me walk really fast.
that's true, right? So that's great that he's doing that, and it's doing this sort of thing is something we're trying to encourage of all of our staff, and we had a little bit of extra money, not a lot this year. Most of it went into salaries, but hoping each year we can put a little bit more in for people doing outside professional development, certificate, licensure programs that not only help people learn new stuff, but kind of make them more invested in being here. So definitely a big program, and congratulations to Josh for finishing that.
Absolutely.
And it's great. And so the award for Norm, and I'm looking because I want to make sure I get the acronym right.
Achievement Award.
And so this is an award that is presented to long-serving assessors, and I believe, this is the Northeastern Regional Association of Assessing Officers. I believe, that's right. So Norm was nominated for this award by his peers, and obviously he has worked in this field for a pretty long time and came in to Hanover about, I think, 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And inherited a bit of a challenge.
Yes, he did.
There were quite a few abatements. Appeals.
That was not
Right.
very good.
And he has cleaned up a lot of that. And, you know, I've met colleagues, you know, when I go to the municipal management and other kind of things, you know, there's folks that are, you know, town managers and assessors and town managers and clerks, and people have spoken very highly of Norm. And I think, you know, it's a small world, and there is a good amount of awareness and appreciation for what he was able to do to help kind of flip things and get things turned around in the assessing department in Hanover. So, you know, as far as I'm concerned, and again, not having all the history here, that this is an award much deserved. And Norm has spent, you know, considerable decades in this field, professionalizing all of this. So definitely thank Norm for his work there, and we congratulate him on this award. And I think it's really nice when you get, as I understand it, they did a really good job of surprising him with it, which is hard to do when you're going to a conference and everybody knows everybody and there's agendas for the different sessions and stuff. And so apparently he was well surprised, and that was very fun. So that's nice to hear.
That's great.
Well, let's have our minutes reflect that the board really appreciates Captain Merriam and Mr. Bernaiche. Now we move on to something new, our consent agenda, which Alex did explain a little bit in the agenda writings here, that it was discussed at the May 1st Selectboard meeting, which unfortunately I did not attend. Were you there, Joanna?
I was.
And that I saw a lot of the rather, I don't want to use the word routine, but business type approvals at the select board, rather than staff needs to approve, can be put into one consent agenda and can be moved in one. It can be moved and seconded in one motion. However, any or all items can be pulled out by a member to be voted on separately. So it's not really incredibly formal in that, meaning we can take them out. It's been suggested that we have a roll call vote, just similar to how we go into non-public session. And as Alex said in the last sentence here, we can adjust what comes in or out depending on how we like this or don't like this. And the items that are in here are, the first one is a request by Scott and Ariana Merrick. Am I pronouncing their name correctly? I hope I am. To rename Jones Street to Old Jones Farms Lane. And if you're not familiar with that, it's off Dogford. It's a one-person road. Approval of the minutes of May 1st and May 15th, which is something we need to come back to. Review and approval of municipal lease purchase agreement regarding police recording equipment for dispatch center, and to authorize the town manager to execute all necessary documents. D is approval of classification of a rental housing inspector. E is approval of classification for a part-time Department of Public Works Administration Coordinator. So Alex, since we, Alex and I talked about the agenda a couple days ago, and Alex, none of us are familiar with this, so you'll have to bear with us.
Sure.
What if we want to, for example, what if the minutes, we need amendments to the minutes, and I've lost mine already, but I didn't really have any this time, but if we do, is that something we can throw in there, or?
Yeah. Is it
Well, so we use this mechanism all the time in the school board.
Okay.
And the protocol for pulling out the minutes, which I advise we should do, is for someone to make a motion to, to remove from the consent agenda item 10B. Certainly because two of us were not elected officials. We can't vote on.
Yeah.
We have to abstain. You'd have to abstain, I guess.
Yeah, actually, I don't know how we're going to prove
pass
it.
them.
I don't think we actually can pass the May 1st one, because the only people there, we don't have a quorum, period. I wasn't there, so Joanna and Nancy were the only ones there.
Well, that's going to be interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I guess in theory, you could watch the meeting.
That's true, I could watch it. Sure.
But still,
You thought you got out of it by not.
But he wasn't present, so, I mean, I don't know.
I'm not sure. Yeah, that is the question. I don't know
what to do. Frankly,
Yeah.
can we ask somebody on that?
We can. I mean, and for whatever it's worth, in New Hampshire, you don't have to approve. I mean, it's our practice to approve minutes, but it's not a legal distinct. But I can ask. I don't know. I mean, I would think that if you watch the video of a meeting, that you should be able to. I would say if you weren't elected at the time, then you wouldn't be able to vote. But if you were elected. Yeah, I'll ask. Okay. So we should pull those out.
So we're pulling those.
Right.
Do we have to make a motion, or can we just pull it out, Alex?
How do you do it,
So
Carrie?
I've seen it done as a motion, so it would be, Mr. Chairman, I move to,
We
Remove
totally
the consent.
struck that word,
what's that?
Chairman.
Oh,
It
yeah,
doesn't
sorry,
exist,
sorry, yeah, you're
it's
right,
out,
sorry.
it's just gone,
Chair,
except
yes,
for
thank you.
occasionally, but we're just getting rid of it.
Yep. I move to take item 10B, approval of
I think you
minutes.
mean 12B, Alex. Oh, excuse me, Carrie.
10B?
Maybe.
10B? 10B.
I'm going to carry on this
On
one.
this, it says 12, really?
Okay. I'm gonna take
Mine has 10B too.
Yeah.
Did we get a new one?
The one that was
The
delivered.
agenda that
I
was
didn't-
part of our
I've got
packet.
the electronic one.
My electronic packet agrees with Carrie.
Well, and
And we
actually,
were encouraged not to print if we didn't need to, but I definitely need to download, because
No,
I
I
did
got
have that
delivered
from.
by,
Yeah, I see, I've got,
I just walked, yeah, but the actual agenda,
Oh,
what number are we on, Alex?
well,
there's
actually,
a conflict.
there is an
in
error in the numbering on one, on the, yeah, now that I.
Okay,
So
it's
that's
12B.
9, 10,
That's
9.
the stuff. I'm gonna go back
So
to
that's
the actual
10.
agenda.
Okay, the numbers don't matter. We're gonna,
Yeah,
your motion is to pull out the minutes, am I
from the
correct?
consent agenda.
correct, yes.
And I'll
correct.
second that.
Yes.
So
okay.
let's,
Yeah,
let's,
see that, right.
why don't we call for a vote on, it doesn't matter what the number is, we're gonna remove the minutes. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that was done unanimously. So we're still left with the consent agenda. We'll go back to the minutes. What's left in here?
So,
What about, Alex, the job classifications?
Mhm.
Is that,
I think we need more information on that. I need more information on that.
What sort of information?
Like, what are we classifying as and what's their salary? And it's in there, so that's good enough. Yeah, okay,
Okay.
I take that back.
Okay. I'm happy to speak to either of those.
so we did get it is in our packet.
Yeah, there should be a memo.
Yep,
I'm like a little concerned that if I'm not getting that printed packet, which I'm not, that I maybe don't have all the information, because you're referencing some stuff that I haven't seen just now.
all right.
The job descriptions, those should have gone out on Friday.
Yeah, the last 2 pages.
The last two, but I thought you said there was also.
That's on the
salary
first
stuff.
page, the
Yeah,
agenda.
the agenda kept getting messed up, so we were looking at the detail and they were looking
Yeah.
at,
Oh,
see here, it's 12 here, it's just inconsistently
Yeah.
labeled. So it was 12 here.
yeah, saw
and
that
then
on the
10
agenda.
in the detail.
But yeah, the memo is on the last page of the Friday mail, the electronic
Okay.
from page 96.
Okay.
96.
Maybe I didn't get to.
Okay, so you're still okay, it sounds like we're still okay with keeping the job descriptions in the consent agenda. So what we have left in the consent agenda is the request to rename the street, the recording equipment for the police dispatch center, classification of the rental housing inspector, and classification of the part-time administrative coordinator. I don't believe we don't have a motion yet for this. I'll move that we approve the consent agenda as changed. Is there a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion, anybody? All in favor? Aye.
I would just encourage a roll call on the
Thank
consent
you.
agenda.
Let's do a roll call. Thank you, I forgot already, even though I said it earlier. Athos Gracias, yes.
Joanna Whitcomb, yes.
Carrie Callahan, yes.
Jenny Chandler, yes.
Okay, so that is unanimously approved. So let's go to the minutes. We've agreed to table May 1st, which brings us to May 15th. And I don't recall that I had any suggestions. Did anybody have any? Joanna, you weren't here, but we still have a quorum without you.
You guys said?
Yeah, okay.
Where'd my go? Here they are. Spread out. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't have anything. I move we approve the May 15th minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye. And you abstain?
Abstain. Do you wanna
So, 3 in favor, 1 abstain. All right, let me just get reorganized. So we've done that. Town reports. I mean, yes, Alex.
Yes, so, let's see, a couple things from town meeting. One is everything has been, we have to submit a whole bunch of stuff to the state afterwards. Everything's been approved by the DRA, with the exception of the reorg, which we will now submit. The next is we had a staff meeting, a staff and official meeting this afternoon, going over, and I'll read out some notes from that, and then if we want to do today, or if folks want to think about it more for the 26th, it would be great to get select board feedback too about just how things went on town meeting day, and then we can sort of incorporate, I can take that back to our election officials and staff. So there was a couple different notes that I'll share from our meeting today, and this is a monthly meeting that we have now with myself, Carrie Osgood, our supervisors, moderator, clerk, and our 2 assistant and associate clerk, 2 staff downstairs in the front lobby, Donna and Melissa. So one is that the tabulator testing went really well. That all seemed pretty smooth. Our officials seemed to like the machines. They worked well. I mean, there was a lot of testing ahead of time. The state and vendor had good feedback about how everything went for us as well. And they really appreciated that Hanover agreed to participate in the beta test. And now there's a couple months of process where, you know, there were different towns testing different types of machines, and the state will figure out some way to which 1 or 2 is the best, and then those will be the 2 that will be made available that towns will be able to purchase in future years. So that's a note that we have on the budget side, is we need to add some money in next year for new machines, although I don't think we have a cost yet. But so that was all pretty good. Some of the kind of run a show on election day, there was definitely a feeling of a little bit of the transition between the election day and town meeting, that there was like a few things that were a little bit difficult logistically, and that included that a small change was made to the flow to accommodate like a different layout, or I guess a small change was made to the layout to accommodate a different flow of the room, and that seems to have created some backup at a few points that some folks recognized, and a small change actually had a pretty big impact. There was a bunch of different ideas discussed in the meeting, and I have total confidence that folks will be able to figure out some solutions next time. There was a few different ideas that people had talked about even today, of ways to reorganize where people are and how the room is set up to make it a little bit easier, and to try to reduce people backing up, or to try to reduce people queuing in one area, but then another area where there's a volunteer sitting being empty. So there's just a few things like that. Wasn't like anything too crazy, I don't think, but it was just everybody noted that it didn't flow quite as smoothly as everybody wanted it to.
There was also a very light turnout compared to.
That is true, right? Compared
to what we normally have, so
Right.
I mean, if you're looking for comments, it makes me a little anxious that the reconfiguration and kind of the isolation between, you know, the high school students and staff having to go kind of outside to get in.
Right.
It's kind of a weird concept for me, and I understand their safety issues, but
Right.
the safety issues that they raised, you know, and we have a police officer here tonight, I'm pretty sure that people can carry, there's no like gun-free zones at the school.
Right.
New Hampshire did away with that. So, you know, the whole concept that if you have a town meeting and there's an open carry law because it's a town event, that same law applies to a school. People can carry guns into schools in New Hampshire. So, you know, the principal said, you know, she didn't want that conflict, but my understanding is the law applies to the school just like it applies regardless of what's happening in the school. So.
But my sense is the concern is that it will invite traffic that wouldn't otherwise be going into the school because of the election.
Yeah, so for like a 50, 60 years, we've been using the high school for our elections, and we're changing that because our society has changed and so I mean, I just have a problem in the shutdown, so.
I had like two concerns, well, one concern and one question. This is not really related exactly to what you're talking about, but there seemed to be just like an accessibility problem with the configuration when we went with this time, in that there was a path that people fell off of or almost fell off of a lot of times because it wasn't as wide enough to like open the door and stay on it, and people would kind of just step off of it.
Which door is that?
The back door to
The
get.
door that we were using to enter, which is
The
back
outside door?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then on top of that, the door, it was exceptionally heavy, and there was there's no way to open it for somebody who has an accessibility need.
Yeah.
But, and also like, when people are sometimes coming out of the door and going in, it's just, it's really easy to fall where that entrance was.
Okay. Yeah, that's noted. That
So
came
that
up,
was
yeah.
I think a noticeable problem, and I don't know where conversations stand about the field house, but I heard that that was like the best run election that we had ever had, and it seems to be very accessible
That was,
during COVID.
Yeah.
The pandemic.
but we didn't
And
hold
there
a
was
mean.
nothing,
was
we
no
didn't
business
have,
meeting.
it was
just an election.
it was election, it
It
wasn't a
was just
business
an
meeting.
election.
Yeah, it was just
that didn't have
ballot
the time
voting.
to
Yeah,
before.
and Dartmouth in general, you know, it's Dartmouth building, it's not a town building. And I have a real problem, it's a town, this is a town event, and this is an election, and it should be in a public building, and it shouldn't be at a private elite college. You know, I mean, it's the school is ours, it's the citizenry, and if the school really doesn't want to open its doors to the town election, then we should close the school for the day.
Yeah, I think we're getting, I
We're
think
getting off subject.
Yeah, I think all the officials agreed there were logistical issues. I think we can resolve them. I mean,
Good.
based on just the conversation we had today and the ideas people were discussing, I have confidence they can. This was the first try of the new layout. Definitely needs some tweaks, and they all brought that up. So I feel like we can address that before we get into the more busy election year next year. Because yeah, you're right. I mean, it's going to be a lot more people.
Right?
Yeah, and the turnout is going to be 5 times more.
And so we need
But
to
it is-
address accessibility.
Yeah.
But we did not have another business meeting until a year from now. We just have a lot of elections. I'm just thinking out loud.
Right.
Okay, so that makes it a lot easier.
There were a couple other things that were brought up. Also, traffic and there were some traffic and parking issues. Same thing as the flow inside. Maybe didn't work quite as well as people were hoping. So that was brought up as well. Definitely a need that we need more volunteers. And so that's something, I mean, there's some volunteering, reorganizing that hopefully maybe, well, I've been saying this summer, but now we're getting to the summer, so we'll see. That, that was just an area that we identified as, a handful more volunteers would be really helpful. But having a new staff, which we will have that job description on the next meeting for the 26th, which is the senior assistant clerk. And it might have a slightly different title that we approved in the budget this year. Having that additional person is going to make a really big difference with all this too. We're going to have a full additional staff person who will be trained on elections, able to assist on the day. We also want to, generally there was a discussion of, how can we get more people, to engage in these sort of things and come out and be interested and maybe stay the whole time. And so we had a conversation just, are there things that we can do that make town meeting, just more interesting or accessible to more people? That came up as well. And those were just kind of the things that we ran through today. And so the two things that I've heard so far from you all is, one is a strong agreement on flow of people and backups and needing to work that out, especially before some of the higher traffic elections. And then 2 is that getting access to the outside door to the building is not easy and not accessible either. So I don't know if there's any other.
I know some people who couldn't find it, but because they were looking from a vehicle in the front, and
Right.
however they came in a vehicle, it wasn't obvious, even
Okay.
though there were a lot of signs that were visible from walking. And
So maybe
Is it
there's some
really
more
from a
signs that we can do.
well,
And if we have more volunteers, I mean, that's the best thing, because then people could be out around directing people. That's kind of the best thing, I think. And we need the bodies for that.
And with regard to the business meeting, is there any way to improve the comfort of?
Yes, oh, sorry, that came up as well. Yeah, the seats, I definitely heard complaints that.
I have watched a million basketball games.
Yeah.
It's really tough.
That is I don't know what the solution is there yet, but we heard that from people for sure. And I could visibly see it. People were
Oh, they were dying.
squirming in their seats, yeah.
Well, and normally we have twice as many chairs on the floor.
Yes, we do.
And
Thank
there
you.
just wasn't, it wasn't set up because we didn't have the time to set it up. You know, we were more proximate to, we were kind of squished against the stadium.
Well, and the Dresden district meeting is held in the auditorium,
Right.
which is far more comfortable.
And I've heard that.
We'd like to look into that too.
May we please look into that?
Yeah,
That would be.
yeah, we haven't done that yet, so I don't want to
It's
promise
for
anything,
two.
but yeah, that came up.
Seats.
It's a
Yeah.
big auditorium.
Yeah, I don't know, it's pretty, way more than I think we had attendees.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it would accommodate.
Oh, thank
Are
you.
those meetings in there currently, Karen?
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
okay.
there every year.
Okay,
It's very sparsely attended,
right.
Right,
but
but it's big and comfy.
yes, it is.
And that's the auditorium in the high school?
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
how many
okay.
people were at town meeting?
Not very many. Maybe
Couple
140, 150,
140,
something
and
like that?
then after,
At the end, there were like
Like
70, right, the
if
votes.
there were 70.
Yeah, because the vote to end the budget debate was 56 to 10.
Oh, gee whiz.
So it's 66.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Assuming that most people voted, but.
And I think that, and this isn't, you're just asking for how to improve that venue, but I think based on that meeting, my feeling is we need to re-examine how we vote how we do town meeting. I used to be a strong proponent of town meeting vote on the budget, and after that town meeting, I'm feeling like we may want to go the way of the school board and vote on the budget at Australia ballot. So that's, I've never said that publicly before, but after that meeting, I kind of feel like
Well,
I
mean, there's a lot
want
of.
to talk about it. I'm
Yeah.
not convinced, but I think we need to discuss,
That's
you know,
I mean,
it's a big one.
it's a big one. We've been there before.
About 8
We
years
talked
ago.
about it at length.
Yep.
The town did vote.
It's a big shift.
Not sure I'm in agreement with you, but I understand the issues that you're bringing up. In fact, I know I'm not in agreement with you, but I know the issues you're bringing up, and I do respect them. And I think this town meeting was pretty unusual of all the ones I've been to. I mean, we had 1 million warrant articles through no one's fault. We just did. And there was so much time taken up debating small, teeny amounts of money in comparison to the $30 million budget that the people got worn out. Maybe there's something we can do with just those are my
Change the order maybe.
change the order potentially.
Oh.
I'm not sure we can do that, but
Yeah, the
we
state has a lot of, we had it in a different order and then they told us to reorder it
okay.
beforehand.
Talking to,
I know.
I think we can.
I think
I mean,
there's
the
work
first
to be
step.
done.
The first step, we can talk with Jeremy, assuming he's going to continue as the moderator, and figure out a way to. You can't move people along, but there's certainly things you can do to usher the process. I mean, everybody was burned out by I'll just say it out loud, pretty trivial discussion at the beginning, leaving no room, no energy for a big discussion.
Yeah, and I too was exhausted, and Jenny and I were standing out there for 12 hours. I can see the pros and cons against the current version versus something with Australian balloting, but an information night the night before, that's kind of how most of the Vermont towns like Norwich does it. I mean, what makes me nervous is to bring up on a computer, a tightly crafted legal and start parsing it out with groups of 100 editing and then try and get that to be legal. It just makes me incredibly nervous. Like, are we getting the wording right? Where's the legal review? I mean, the lawyer, to me, that's a kind of a crazy process. Not ideal to be crafting a bond article by consensus in that kind of a forum late at night. So but I'm sure there are advantages too. I mean, I like the idea of participatory democracy, but we had 66 voters out of a town of 10,000 deciding and actually punting on the $30 million, or not quite, but budget.
That's the part that I'm concerned about.
It's like, wow, that was far from ideal. So maybe there's a better way through an informational, even if you didn't have Australian balloting for everything, you could have a detailed informational session the night before for those who wanted to go through all the gory details of the budget, and then a more abbreviated version the night of. That way you could maybe satisfy multiple desires. I don't know, I'm sure there's other solutions, but that's one that comes to mind.
Yeah. I think it's something we can continue to discuss. I mean, we've been there, and I can't remember when we were there.
It was probably the year that I joined the board.
That long ago?
Yeah, it was pretty long ago. We can look it up.
I'd like to look up the discussion we had.
Because we had appointed a committee to do assessment, because we looked at becoming a different type of town, like an SB1
SB2.
or SB2, and because there's very
Got very emotional too.
Yeah, it did. But it was a very unusual town meeting.
This town meeting was very unusual. Unlike any of
I've been to in 25 years.
Worth discussing again.
Worth
perhaps.
discussing. Yeah.
And
so therefore, I'm pretty reticent to make huge moves on one town meeting.
One data set.
Yeah.
But I think it would be worthwhile. Alex, could you see if, dig up the old committee work that was done, looking at exploring SB2, like changing the form of elections, right? I don't remember when we did it.
It was, Peter will know. We can ask Peter. It was very emotional. It was,
It was impassioned discussion.
Yeah.
Passionate discussion.
all right, I think we can continue this discussion further. Alex, are you complete?
So a couple other things. So as we were kind of talking about as we were coming in, the hedges out front have been removed. Over the next couple of weeks, we'll be replacing them with something a little smaller and neater, and also putting some tables down that Allie from Still North is donating to the town, so thank you, Allie. And we may buy a couple also that are easier for ADA accessibility.
Alex, could you just let people who are watching us know why we're doing this?
Yeah, so these came up during conversations with business owners that we started having last year. We had a series of meetings with business owners over about 4 months, and one of the topics that was highlighted throughout that conversation was an interest in more public gathering spaces in the downtown. This has also come up through the Sustainable Master Plan Advisory review process as well. So it's come up from a few different places where people are saying more public space in the downtown. And not just more public space. I mean, so like I'll give an example. Two of the things that we talked about when we landed on this was, one is we have a lot of places to sit on the benches, but they're all spread out throughout the town, which is kind of cool, but it also doesn't create that kind of congregational feeling which is what the Home for the Holidays event was trying to sort of replicate on Allen Street. The second is that, and we had a lively debate about this among the business folks that were at the meetings. Do people like it, if you're having takeout, do you like sitting on a bench or do you like sitting on a table? But we don't actually have the option because there aren't any outdoor tables really. I don't think there's any actually in the entire downtown that are, other than the sustainability park, that are public. And so this adds.
That's well used.
What's that?
That's well used since it was
Yes.
in.
Well used.
I see people there frequently.
Okay.
It's used.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's great.
Might be an exaggeration.
Yeah.
I see people there.
I go there.
Yeah, I go there sometimes. So we're yeah.
I like this.
I might run into
So we want to add additional
The swings
seating
are also
as well.
used.
And then, possibly, depending on what we do in the future, this is sort of the first phase. I could imagine a second phase, next year once we do it and get some feedback, what people like or don't like, what kind of seating they want. Maybe we add, Adirondack chairs. Maybe we add some pavers to make it a little bit easier to be on and less maintenance. Maybe, so there may be some lighting outside. Maybe there's a way to have, events out there. And this is part of an effort, we're also looking at Allen Street, at doing one or two more events this summer where Allen Street is closed to vehicles and just pedestrian only. Business owners are very excited about that as well. And then there's a few other things that are maybe we'll see how these go. Places where we might try to create more public spaces in the downtown that people can gather. So that's that. And came out of those business meetings. Businesses are pretty excited about it. And I've gotten good feedback even from a few folks already that just, we're doing some stuff outside and people were looking at the signs and saying, what's going on here? And we told them, oh, this sounds great. And so residents, seemed interested as well. So that's that. I'll keep you all updated. I think it'll take a couple of weeks for it to kind of come together. Next is summer hours. So we are pretty close to having a plan for different departments. There's a few things that I'll update you all on tonight. So one is we did start each department is a little bit different. We talked about this in a handful of department head meetings, and what we found was that there was not a way to do, one uniform schedule for all the departments. The Howe Library and Town Hall had very different needs and hours. So there's some that aren't making huge changes and then some that are making larger changes. This is for July and for August, so July 3rd to right up to Labor Day. Except for Public Works, which started today. And so they have such a crushing staffing shortage over there, especially in the highway department. I think we have either 4 or 5 vacancies right now. So they wanted to move towards a 4-day, their summer hours are 4-day longer days and 4 days per week, which some towns do permanently. In fact, Lebanon, most of their city staff are on a 10 hours a day, 4 days a week. And I've gotten pretty positive feedback from their staff for that. So Public Works is on that schedule as of today. They are very excited about it, very happy about it. That was done with feedback. That was done with discussion with the union representatives as well. Town Hall is the main one I just wanted to bring up. So Town Hall is also a complicated one because you have, like 6 different small departments in one building that also have different needs. And what we landed on as a good compromise, I think, is the hours that we're talking about are a half hour earlier, Monday through Thursday. So Town Hall staff work a 35-hour week. Some staff in town work a 40-hour week. This is another area where we need to at some point get this a little more uniform, but Town Hall staff are all 35 hours. And so we work 8:30 to 4:30. And so we're going to start in a half hour earlier. So it'll be 8 to 4:30 every day, Monday through Thursday. And then Friday would be 8 to 1 without a lunch break before the 1 o'clock. So you'd work straight from 8 to 1 and then be off. We started with a 4-day week. Some staff were really excited about it. Some really that did not work for them, because to reallocate those numbers of hours, you basically have to come in at 7. There was really no way to do that otherwise. And for a few people with childcare and there was just no way for them to do it. And so this seemed like a good compromise. And we'll see how it goes. You know, the staff are really enthusiastic about it. I think people are looking forward to taking a little bit of a deep breath this summer and things slowing down a little. It's been, I think, a pretty head down for a few years with COVID and just everything. And so this has, you know, been talked about in some of our HR study meetings that we're doing, and of course we've talked about the summer hours here a couple times. So that's where we're at. I think for the other main public-facing things, how is actually not going to be changing at all. There's a couple other Parks and Rec. For example, the OST staff are doing a similar schedule, but they're rotating the day because they can't close for a day with the programming that they do. So that's going to be sort of juggled internally among the staff, and each one will take a different day off each week, if that makes sense.
What does OST stand for?
Outside of school time, right? Outside of school time, yeah. The after school programs. Police and fire are already kind of on their own schedule. And the main thing about this, the main goal of this program is to ultimately get to a point where everybody who works for the town has on a regular basis, if not on a weekly basis, at least 1/2 day during the work week that they are not scheduled for work and that they don't have to use their time off for that. And so that is something I think is really important to provide as an employer, that people at minimum have a 1/2 day where they can go to the bank and go call customer service and go do all that kind of stuff, go to their doctor's appointments or whatever, and do it during the time when all the other stuff is open, but they don't have to use up their time to do that. And so that has been received well by the staff. Some departments like police and fire, their shift schedule, they already have that built in because they don't work 9 to 5, 5 days a week. But for a lot of the other staff, they don't have that. So this is a nice change there. This is a pilot program just for July and August. We'll see how it goes, and based on feedback from staff, feedback from public, if you all hear anything, we'll come back probably in September and sort of recap and see how things went. But I'm already hearing staff who are, interested in this in the long term, which I will be fully upfront that this is in part to study whether something like this could work more permanently too. And that doesn't mean we have to do the exact same schedule. Both prior towns I've worked in, we did a late night and then an early day on Friday, so that town hall was open till 6 or 7 once a week, and that allowed residents to come in later, which we got really positive feedback for. So there's a bunch of different configurations. That's that. Any questions about that? The last thing I think is just, or second to last thing sort of, is Makework Community Forest. I was asked to bring in a timeline. I did talk and meet with Andrew and Rob from Twin Pines and Rob, and what we talked about is that Andrew's going to come in on June 26th and do a short overview of Twin Pines and just sort of what projects have done in Hanover, who they are, make sure we're all sort of, us and the public are on the same page about who they are, and then we will go into non-public and begin talking about the terms that town meeting asked the select board to set to convey the property. And so like any contract negotiation, there's usually a portion of that needs to happen in private before it goes out to public because we're in a negotiation with another entity. But obviously just that beginning part of the conversation is happening in non-public. That doesn't change that, of course, we're going to be having all sorts of public hearings and meetings that we have yet to determine what those are. And those will come later.
Right. Can I just ask if you could reach out to Twin Pines and just, they have done amazing work in affordable housing. Mm-hmm. This is workforce housing, and I think everyone wants to make sure that it's workforce housing and how they envision doing that, which is different than affordable housing. It also has a different aesthetic and a different financial package, and I just want to make sure this is the right organization for Hanover to work with, because I think it's really important that we're meeting that forgotten middle need, and that's what we hear over and over again. And as I said, Twin Pines does amazing things in affordable housing, but it's the low income, and this is the next tranche, and I wanna make sure that they can make this happen for us. And if they can't, or maybe, the town's gonna have to step up to help them make it happen for us, or maybe there's another nonprofit out there. So I just wanna be really transparent, because I wanna make sure we're doing this right.
Sure.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know there's like some statutory stuff on workforce housing about what has to be affordable, and it seemed like Hanover was going above and beyond that in some, aspects of income. And if Hanover's attaching like a metric to affordability, I would just strongly urge that it be a combination of housing and transportation.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you said. Be what?
That it be a combination of housing and transportation costs rather than just housing.
Okay.
Because those are the two main expenses, and people tend to put affordable housing further away from places where people need to go, which makes it less affordable. So if the point is to have a workforce that can work and live here, or people who can sustain themselves here,
Okay.
it's very vital that they also can afford to transport themselves around or move around because there is, say, a sidewalk or a bus or.
and I think that that's an example of the kinds of terms that we will be setting. Because the way that it was approved at town meeting is the select board sets the terms of what we want that they would have to do for us to convey the land to them. And so I think there's going to be we're going to set the work for whatever the metrics are that we're going to use. I think we will be setting those.
I also think that when it comes to this particular parcel, that, you raised a really good point, Jenny, this isn't a walkable parcel right now. And I think that as we embark on our capital improvements program and our sustainable master plan, we have to figure out a way to make this transit-friendly, walkable, bikeable location, because, and we all know that's basically a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
Do you know the actual distance of that parcel? I didn't look, I thought it was.
It's not that far from Greensboro to Lebanon, but it involves
the state wants us to take it over completely.
Yeah.
Carrie, did you have something?
Yeah, just with respect to the executive session on the 26th, could you also bring in the perspective, I don't know what materials you want to bring in from the 2020 town meeting? Because I think there are folks out there who feel that a commitment was made at that town meeting with respect to that parcel. And then I know there was a zoning change and it went from 4 to 5 acres, and it's complicated. And just so that we understand the perception of commitments that have been made, that'd be important to have.
Basically an outline of what we've done so far.
Yeah. We'll get some of that in before the next meeting.
All right. Anything else, Alex?
No, the one second thing is that I posted 1 million episodes on the podcast. If people haven't listened to any lately, I've got a few more. I don't know, they all happened quickly. So, we met Cindy Warmington, talked a little with her. We talked to a couple folks at Advanced Transit about the new bus schedules, which is really exciting. This is 2-hour additional on weeknights and Saturday service. So that was something that we had been working with them on, and it had been part of their plan for a while. But Hanover, what's that?
For 30 years.
30, okay, that's a long time.
Service.
And I will say Hanover was the first town to make the financial commitment in this cycle of the discussion. And that, I think, helped get some of the other stakeholders to buy in, and that got all the money in, and then we got the new, that should be starting in the fall. And I think there's going to be more cool things like that come down in the future. So check that out if you're interested in advanced transit. We also did it's a really cool spotlight of our 911 dispatchers at the police department. So not everybody may know that our police department dispatches for 60 public agencies in New Hampshire and Vermont in like 24 different towns, which is pretty incredible. And so in that episode, we interview about half a dozen dispatchers, talk about what it's like being behind the scenes, answering 911 calls, and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's really cool to hear about that. So last pitch is, if people haven't listened to it in a while, there's some good stuff on there. That's it.
Wonderful. Select board reports. I have nothing to report. Is that true? Yes, that's true. Joanne?
I have, just wanted to thank the Hanover Center neighborhood. There was a great muster day on Memorial Day, 7 years ago, where the scouts were there. I counted about 100 people in attendance. It was a beautiful day. The old flags were removed, new flags were put in, taps were played. Anya Donovan, who is the ethics professor, or I think will be retiring, she announced she was the MC, did a really nice job. They had donations, shout out to, let's see if we can get this right, Carrie, because Carrie's there, Voloco, Luz, Ramuntos, and Red Kite, and there were donations of water. So it was a really nice event. They did a good job, and I think we should make sure we help make it happen next year.
Great.
Just want to remind everyone that Hanover High School graduates on Friday evening, and Dartmouth graduation, as some of you have gone around the green, Dartmouth graduation is on Sunday. It is busy, busy time. Let's all be happy and smiley and welcome all of our visitors. Also wanted to let you know, Stores Pond will be opening, I believe, June 16th, but get your memberships now. Early bird pricing is effective now through June 11th. So get your family tickets, your family passes, and your individual passes to swim and play tennis and do all that stuff. It is also important to note that the town and the Stores Pond, or the Hanover Improvement Society, and the Friends of Oak Hill have been working out there. There's been some major logging happening out there to cut trails for cross-country ski trails and to improve the safety of the campsite and Stores Pond recreation area. So it's going to look different, everyone, and they're cleaning up, they're grinding up stumps and doing all that kind of stuff. There also, you'll see pipe and going in there this summer to begin the snowmaking construction. But you won't notice any difference at the tennis courts or the pool or the pond. Campsites, you'll see a difference, and a bunch of the trails will be closed off and on to accommodate the trail building out there. So it's really exciting. I think it's going to be an amazing thing for the community, but it is this is please excuse the mess kind of thing out there. And I will let Jenny tell you what happened at the bike walk committee this afternoon. So
when is the ski stuff complete?
I think, assuming everything goes well, they're hoping to be blowing snow in November.
No way, really? Okay.
That's what they're hoping. The big driving date is Dartmouth is hosting the NCAAs in 2025. So the hope is that the trails are constructed and the snowmaking is in place so they can have a season to work out the kinks. And so, and we'll keep you posted on when season passes for that are available, but let's embrace the summer first. That's Stores Pond.
Carrie, anything to report?
Well, a couple of other items. One is that we have a scheduled select board meeting for September 25th, which is coincident with Yom Kippur.
Hold on 1 second. We can always move
We'll
those.
shift that.
So we do have 2 back-to-back meetings scheduled already. It's that date, September 25th, and the following October 2nd.
Oh yeah, let's change that.
And so I wonder if we move
Just cancel it.
the 9/25 to 9/18. We'd still have 2 back-to-back meetings, 9/11 and 9/18, just different days, and it wouldn't conflict with Yom Kippur.
Oh wait, this one on the 11th?
There's one on the 11th, there's one on the 25th, and there's one on October 2nd.
It's a lot of meetings.
It's a lot of meetings, but I think because of Indigenous Peoples' Day in early October.
Yeah.
That's on a Monday. I think that's why there's two back-to-back.
So what if we shift the what would you say is the 25th?
Yom Kippur's on the 25th, yeah.
We shift it to the 18th, but we decide as we get closer to the date whether we need it or not.
Yeah, I agree.
Because we may not need it if we can get everything done on the 11th.
Yeah.
Every now and again, we give ourselves
A little break.
a little
Okay.
break.
I like that.
And on that note, I'm gonna try and do that for July and August. Are folks open to that?
Yes.
I know we didn't do it last year, and I think that was partially because I was brand new, so it's my fault, yeah. But I can work with, Carrie as, we can look at that, which I think we can do, and then maybe we'll come back on the 26th with recommendations, or I don't know, unless people wanna do it now, of removing,
No, take a look at it.
one of the
Take a
meetings in
look
July
at
and one in
it, and
August.
then maybe let's look at the whole, at least now
Yeah.
through December or whatever.
Anything else?
Well, so one other question just for consideration, which is, I know this meeting has started at 7:30 for decades.
Yeah.
And, going back in time, many employees probably lived in the town. Now we ask employees to stick around and they have longer commutes than they probably did 30 years ago. So question for the select board is, would we consider an earlier start, like a 7 o'clock start or 6:30? I mean,
I don't see a reason why not to.
I'm fine going to 7.
Yeah, earlier than 7 makes it really tough for me.
Yeah.
we like
Yeah,
7.
7's
What do you think, Alex?
Yeah, it works. I mean, from a staff perspective, I think it's only, I'm usually here anyway on Mondays. But I think for the handful of, when we do have people come in, it makes it a little bit easier for people to get home sooner. And especially when we have some, if we have an attorney or someone come in for non-public and we do union negotiations, having people start that meeting, a little earlier certainly helps a little bit.
Yeah.
And I don't know, just for my own, a lot of towns do 7:30, but a lot do 7 also.
that gives people enough time to get home,
Right.
home from work.
It still works from a public perspective. I don't think it makes a difference.
Sometimes, yeah, I say 7 works for me, and then I look at others like, I don't finish till 7:30, so that's like, fine.
I think 7 should probably work out reasonably well for me. We could try it. You want to try it? We're going to tell Nancy. Should we wait a meeting, or? I don't think Nancy really. Well, no, she frequently has conflict. Let's talk to Nancy before we unanimously do that.
And I can also talk to Carrie as we'll look at the schedule too, and just I'll double check and make sure I'm not forgetting some reason why it would be an issue.
I know Nancy sometimes comes from something else. I can't remember what that something else is.
business meetings have been happening.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
The business meetings were happening on Monday, but I think they're now different times, so.
Yeah. All right, that's something to think about. Great. Okay. It just, for God's sake, we've been doing it forever though. Jenny, anything to report?
Yeah, well, Hanover Bike Walk had, a coned bikeway on Bike to Work Day, and we basically coned off the bike lane, which is already a bike lane. It just got cones for the day. We got a lot of positive feedback, including from drivers who bothered to write in and say they appreciated it, which was kind of nice. We got the criticism that the cone sometimes fell down, and that was not around the curve, but near the co-op where it narrows. And eventually we took those cones away. But yeah, people were asking for flex cones that are more permanent that would separate it, and a lot of other suggestions. We don't have the data yet from the police to see what the speeds were, but people reported that they felt that traffic was slower and less harrying, and they felt better, even though the cones don't really offer protection, but they do delineate and make it very clear.
Did we record speed data?
Yeah, we just don't have the report yet from the police.
Great.
Like, I don't have access to that. But, they started recording speed data the week before, so we should have good comparisons. It's like actually probably closer, whenever it came away from whatever speed, they're recording speed somewhere else.
Yep.
So they didn't get a full 2 weeks, but it's more than a week. So that went well, and we are presenting the walk-bike plan on the 26th. I think Carrie said it should be in, like, all the files that we want included in the packet by 2 weeks beforehand.
Yeah, if you wanna send it to us as soon as you have everything together.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And then in that packet will be, in addition, the proposed Vision Zero plan for Hanover, which we are hoping we could set a public hearing for. I don't know if we have to discuss it first, but the Safe Streets for All grant is due in July 10th. And in order to have a competitive grant, we should adopt that as a town, or someone should adopt it. So I would recommend adopting it. It's based off on most Vision Zero statements and made applicable to a small town and rural context, based on the current thinking in the United States.
So Jenny, what are you recommending? You're recommending that there's a grant that we apply for? Oh, I didn't quite follow.
Yeah,
what you're
there's a
saying.
grant, there's like $5 billion being given away over 5 years by US DOT to improve the safety of our streets.
Okay,
We missed the grant deadline last year, but part of the reason we missed it is we didn't qualify to apply. One of the qualifications is adopting a Vision Zero plan. So
and what's a Vision Zero plan?
it says that we are striving to zero fatalities and severe injuries on our roads by a certain date. We picked 2030. And then it also recommends like best practices in trying to strive for safe streets, which is like developing a safe systems approach.
And the Vision Zero plan is promulgated by the DOT? Or where does that come from? Like, who is it?
Who is it? Well, our committee
No, I mean,
drafted a Vision Zero plan. The Vision Zero plans are commonplace throughout towns and cities in the world and in our country now. But we don't have one. Like, we have a complete street policy, but we don't have a Vision Zero
but you're
statement.
saying the DOT required it?
For the grant application,
Yeah.
it's part of the
We haven't done it
checklist.
yet, though.
Well,
I mean, we haven't adopted it as a town. The Bike Ped Committee drafted it, presented it to us.
Yeah.
We kind of sat on it as a
Yeah.
select board.
But that'll be part of the presentation on the 26th, is going over the Vision Zero plan.
well, I was hoping that we could have a public hearing about whether we adopt it or not, since we did present the Vision Zero plan previously to the select board, but none happened with it. But now we're up against a deadline to adopt it if we want to make our grant application stronger, if we are going to apply for the grant.
But we have to have the public hearing before the grant is submitted?
Yeah.
And when is the grant deadline?
July 10th.
So what would be the meeting, I guess, that you,
So what if we propose, we'll send around the draft vision, we'll resend the draft zero,
Well, Carrie hasn't seen it probably.
right?
I don't think I've seen it.
Yeah.
I don't.
Well-
recall.
No, I don't think so.
I think it was probably, was it last year around this time?
Yeah,
When did we do that?
It's-
it was to get ready for the grant proposal last year.
And so we have a meeting on the 26th, and then we have a meeting on July 10th.
Right, so it would need to be adopted before July 10th because the grant would be due before our meeting, because our meeting is at night, and most grant applications are due, end of business day. I didn't check the time, but I'm guessing that we
Right.
have it in by then.
And it sounds like then we would have to have the public hearing in the next meeting.
Why do we have to have a public hearing?
Because we have to adopt it.
Well, I thought
Adopt the vision statement.
yeah,
Why
don't
do
we?
we need a public meeting for that?
I don't know, I just assumed we did.
I don't think we do.
Did Rob tell us that we did? Yeah, because remember
Oh,
he was telling us.
he was marking out like how adoptions normally go.
I mean, would it, in case we do have to, does it hurt to schedule it?
No.
I mean, we're having a bunch of other public hearings that
Yeah.
night anyway, so
Yeah.
why don't we propose to set a public hearing for June 26th to discuss the zero vision at the
Vision Zero.
Vision Zero statement.
Mhm.
We'll get that around to everyone beforehand, and, if we adopt it, we adopt it, if we don't, we have a discussion, if we don't. And that will give
Yeah.
us a couple weeks before the grants due.
Okay, so we're doing this under other business, which is fine. Okay, so we need a second? Carrie, all right, so I'm a little confused on this still, but we'll get information on this, I hope.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous. Jenny, anything else?
I think that's it.
Great. I'm not sure you added something to us here, Alex, other committee report, I'm not sure what that means.
Not sure.
Then let's skip it.
Any other committee report?
We're skipping that one.
Okay.
Tabling it rather, I should
Okay.
say.
Yeah, if it's like the Upper Valley Regional Planning Commission, I wasn't sure if we ever sent the letters in support of the Regional Planning Commission for their ADU workshop.
I don't know, is that something that happened recently, or what's the context?
Yeah, last month I had sent a letter to Rob and you about like just a letter. They were hoping for a letter of recommendation to try to basically create a workshop so that people could create ADUs more easily, like gather all their tools. And
I can ask Rob about that.
yeah, I think Rob was gonna do it. I just, when you said other committee, I was like, oh, maybe I should ask about that. Because email wasn't.
Yeah, I can ask him about that. I don't-
ADUs, accessory dwelling units?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they were trying to basically pull together a bunch of resources so that if people wanted to build an ADU, if they would know, what they had to do and make that more accessible.
Okay,
I will ask Rob about that.
Yeah.
thank you.
And there was one other letter, I'm not remembering what it was for, that they were hoping for.
All right, any other business? Hearing none, there's been a request for a non-public session to discuss items pursuant to RSA 91A:3, A, C, E, and L. Roll call vote. Athos Gracias, yes.
Joanna Whitcomb, yes?
Calvin, yes.
Jenny Turnell, yes.
We are in non-public session. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
Thanks for hanging in there.
Thank you for being here. Glad we didn't need you, really. Oh.
I'll be right back. Give me 20 seconds.